This video is all about making absolutely sure that you are dealing with alcoholism or addiction. I know that sounds silly because if you're in this course, that means you're pretty sure you're dealing with an addict or an alcoholic. But what could happen is, as we go through this process, you could start to question it or doubt it. So I want to really define this for you so you can know for sure 100% in your heart that this is what I'm dealing with. Okay, so most people think of addiction or alcoholism having to do with drinking a lot or using a lot of drugs, when in fact, that's really not what it's about. It's not about what you use or how much you use. It's about how much you're thinking about it, because that thinking about it turns into obsession, and that obsession starts to interfere with other things in your life. So it's true, you can be an alcoholic and only drink on the weekends. I know that seems crazy. A lot of people think things like, hey, I'm not an alcoholic, I don't wake up and drink, but that really has nothing to do with it. If the drinking or using interferes with your life over and over again and you continue to do it, that's an indicator that there's a problem. Another way to think about it is, it's really not so much that a person can't control their using at all. So like a lot of times, alcoholic might say, I'm only going to have 2 beers or 2 glasses of wine or 5 beers or whatever it is. Lots of times they're able to do that, but lots of times they're not able to do that. So it's not so much that you drink every day or use every day or how much. It's about, can you consistently control and predict how much you're using? It's about, is it interfering in your life in a negative way over and over again, but you keep doing it? These are the hallmarkers of addiction and alcoholism. Another thing that I tell my clients a lot is not so much are you using it every day, because that's what people think about. They think about if you're an addict or alcoholic, it means you're doing it every day. Not really, it doesn't mean that. A better way to think about it is, I have trouble stopping once I start. So once I open that floodgate, it's really hard to close it back. That's how people get to drinking or using every day. It's because one day the floodgate opens and just doesn't close back. But most of the time, before you get to that stage of addiction, there are these periods where it looks more like binge use. And during those binges, bad things can happen. And then somewhere in there, they'll promise themselves, I'm not going to do this anymore. They may promise you, they may say, okay, from now on, no more liquor or no more vodka, but it keeps coming back. So there are these promises to control it, these efforts to control it, and it keeps coming back. There's the fact that it interferes in their life over and over, and they continue to do it. They make promises to themselves and other people, and they continue to do it. They're thinking about it a lot. They may plan events around it, or they may not want to go to certain events or functions that don't include the substance. These are the hallmarks that I look for substance use disorder official diagnosis. Another thing that I kind of unofficially look for when I talk to people with addiction is I look for how much self-pity and resentment do they have. I know this seems crazy, but this is a better measure of whether or not someone's an addict or an alcoholic than when or how much they're using. The reason is because it's like essential part of the process. Person has to justify or rationalize their choices, and the way that they do that is to make themselves victims of something. So usually it's, I feel sorry for myself because I hate my job, or my boss is a jerk, or my wife is a nag. Sometimes it's, I feel sorry for myself because I beat myself up. So sometimes it doesn't have to come from an external source, but it can be like, I'm terrible, I'm awful, I'm worthless, I'm no good. So I'm beating myself up, but I feel sorry for myself because I'm no good. Either which way it comes, whether it's external or internal, there's this process of woe is me, and that's usually mixed in with a bunch of resentments. And that's the way that people sort of protect themselves from the shame and the guilt that they feel. So I look a lot for that. Of course, everyone has things they feel sorry for themselves about. Everyone has a few resentments, but addicts and alcoholics tend to obsess about these resentments. They can't really get past things, particularly alcoholics. And so this is a hallmarker that I look for before, when it seems like the frustration, the resentment is excessive to the situation and just seems to go on and on and on. It's kind of like what I might call like a help rejecting complainer. It's because they need this problem in their life because it's the way that they justify their drinking or using. You know, I have to do it because, you know, work hard every day and my boss is a jerk and this is the way I relax. You know, there's some sort of justification process there. I tell you these things so you really understand what addiction and alcoholism looks like, because you may start to think to yourself, well, you know, they really did go to the party and just have 2 drinks, or, you know, I really don't think that they're using every day, or hey, they went for a whole month without using. And then you might start to think, well, maybe they're not an addict or an alcoholic. Get it straight in your head. It doesn't have a lot to do with what or how much. It has a whole lot more to do with those thinking processes that we describe. Hopefully, when you start to have some of those doubts creep in as you're going along this journey, this will help bring you back to home base, because you really have to have your head wrapped around this to make the appropriate decisions. Because if you get off track and you start thinking, well, maybe it's this issue or maybe it's that issue, you're going to be going about trying to help in all the wrong ways.